My name's Chris. I'm the Rusty Caveman. That's me sitting on the little roller coaster over there. In this particular video, we are going to cover making the pair of 30-foot raised beds that have a hoop over. There are hundreds of little mistakes that we've made in this thing the entire time we worked on it. I thought this would be a great idea. I'd make the sides all in one piece. I would use the strength of the tractor to lift it up. As you will see in the upcoming clips, that didn't work too well. At all. Ever. So anyway, that's where we're at. You'll see the structure a little bit further on. The wood is in front of the, between us and the project there, so it's kind of hard to see. But right now I'm cutting the cross pieces that were meant to hold all the boards together. And for the most part, that part worked, except at the joints. Now this video is actually from back when I was coming off being sick. This video took probably about a month to come together. And that's just because it took a while to get things done. I didn't want to send out a half video and then have to come back and do another half. So at this point I'm trying to set the two sides in their permanent locations. And if you look off to the right hand side, you'll notice that there's an odd angle on that one. That's because it broke right there at the joint. The 2x6 that held the two sections of 10-foot boards together snapped, split in half, right at the screws. And that was a consistent problem we found across the board. So this particular one, it became a loose, but we did manage to actually stand it up in one piece, I believe. Got Trixie in the background, checking out, seeing what's happening. I think, nope, I think it broke off on the right-hand side at this point, or left-hand side at this point. So this area is going to try to hold it up. I'm going to try to stabilize it. And I'm going to come around there and grab the other piece, which is obviously broken, and get that stood up. At this point, I'm already dying and wish this project was over, or I'd never started it. One of the two. Now, these are 2x8s, treated, so, you know, light. They're 10 foot long. I have a supporting board in the middle there. You can see that in front of my hat. That holds the three boards together. And at each seam, I have basically a 2x6 that was spanning each of the 10-foot sections. After we got that one stood up, you can see some of the cross support pieces that we have put in there. At this point, I'm trying to drag this section back. Sherry and Mrs. Caveman screwed that little board in there, so I have something to grab onto with the bucket. And now we're going to try something I do not recommend anybody do. And we are going to drill those posts in using the bucket of the tractor. Now, it could have pinged off one way or the other, but we did it really slow, and it came out okay. Wife was a little bit nervous during the whole thing. Yep, a little bit nervous. Anyway, we put two posts in this way. The second one, I think she was even more nervous about, but you know, it got done and it worked. The hard part was pulling those things back out. Now we lost the batteries on this camera many times, so you're going to see sections of work, and then you're going to see a gap where all of a sudden it looks like things are done. For example, the entirety of this second wall is already up. And at this point, we're just trying to make the two beds as close to square as possible. So we had to drag this one back about 8 inches, these two sides back. Sherry's kind of using that T-post. We use the T-post a lot in this project, trying to use them as levers or trying to use them as guides or whatever would possibly come into play. If you look down that line, that the two sides on that particular bed is actually pretty straight. I was impressed how it finally came out. Here I'm trying to, again, line them up, square them up. And get them straightened out. We used the tractor as much as we could because this stuff is heavy. And since I wasn't feeling all that great, I was not very smooth and easy on the controls. So that idea didn't work. So when it doesn't work, you try it again. Now if you look right in front of the bucket, you can see that section is already starting to split. There it goes. And that's over with. So we manhandle the thing over there. We get it stood up. We lean it against one of the posts, and then we stand up the other section. Try to get them close together as possible, which actually worked out pretty good. I used the tractor again to kind of bump it over, and we used a shovel to help kind of maneuver things around when the T-posts are just not doing the job. We could have just went up and got the the proper pry bar, but by this time I was frustrated enough I just didn't care. So we got this one stood up, and it actually looks pretty good, and it's going to stay pretty good all the way up until I try to shove the two pieces together. Then I'll crack it. So the cross pieces that you see example on the left-hand bed there, they're screwed in. The sides themselves are nailed. And at this point, I'm just trying to line up that last bed height. Finally get them together. Sherry gets all the a lot of the supports screwed in. And at this point, I'm starting to just fill it with the old rotten firewood that we had laying around. We got a whole pile of it. In fact, we've got enough to fill probably another 4 beds before we run out, which is good because we've got more to do. The reason we didn't put the ends on is because at the time that we did this, we ran out of wood, and Bidwell Hardware didn't seem to carry the boards that we needed, which were the 2x8s. 8 foot long, treated. So we did the best we could here. I did have to squeeze it together a little bit more, but we finally got everything tied together. Here we finally got the boards, and Sherry and Dad went to work getting them cut off. Now let me go ahead and give you the dimensions of these particular beds. The bed themselves is 30 feet long. It is 24 inches wide and 20 inches tall, 21 inches tall. It's 3 boards high. So at this point we're making all the cuts, and Sherry will start screwing everything together so it looks good. Meanwhile, I'm moving some dirt around, and I finally get the beds filled. Didn't have the battery for that. You saw this in the last video. Last weekend is when we picked up all the dirt from Bidwell Hardware. Brought it over, dropped it into the beds. It did turn out that we needed approximately 18 bags per bed. And as you can see, there's nothing that can be done on the farmstead without the chickens coming over and seeing what's going on, which is fun. Now for the hoop part. This actually ended up being more challenging than I thought it would be. So we used the trailer to go get it. These are actual cattle panels, and we used a total of 7 of them. Now, by this time in the project, I'm wiped out. I set the camera in one spot, hoped it covered everything it needed to cover, and that was it. So that's unfortunately what you're getting. So we get the panels up. We get them kind of draped over the two beds. Wifey goes and gets the tools and stuff while I try not to pass out underneath the tree. And here we go. Let's try to make these things into a hoop. And that particular worked. Now she's got to set her end down. A couple times it kicked out on us and caught our shins. That was not exactly comfortable. But if the hoop was touching the ground on each side of the beds, then we actually had 6 foot of clearance down the center, which is enough to walk through, but it wasn't enough for, say, hanging squash, vegetation, and things like that. I tried to do it a different way by coming up through the center and lifting it up. That was not the way to do it at all. It didn't work out well. So we went back to one on each end, kind of flipping it up and planting them into the ground. And as you can see, once you get them screwed in, they're actually looking pretty good. These are a bit of 7 foot tall. We can zip tie them together later. This is to get the height. Put it up higher on the board. Like I've showed over here, it's all the way to the base. If we need it higher, we just lift this side up. If it turns out we need it lower, let's bring that side down a little bit. And this battery is almost dead. Taking the time to watch this video with me. Please feel free to leave comments. I enjoy reading the comments. And thank you very much for watching.